Hi, I'm Ms. Jamie Rice, and you are watching Comicsverse. I'm here with prolific Danny Fingeroth, who's worked on almost every Marvel title ever, Eisner Award judge. How are you liking the last day of the con? How's it going?
It's good, for me. I part of what I do here is I work for Wizard, doing 6 to 10 panels at every show. So I got 2 panels to do today.
So kind of going back in your catalog a bit, you've worked on all these iconic Marvel titles. So what was it like to work on all of those titles for so many years and then to come out of that and kind of do your own thing?
Well, it's funny. By its definition, although that's changing, but by its definition, comic books are disposable popular culture, in a way, right? Obviously, it's collectors and people who put them in slabs, but so when you're sitting in an office or at a studio working on them, I didn't really imagine that stuff I worked on 30 years ago would be people would be coming up and having me sign it or ask me about stories that we worked on 30 years ago. And what's even crazier is I usually remember the answer and I can tell them. But so it's interesting. The way anything is when you can't know till you're older, but when you're young, you have no way of knowing what, if any, impact what you do will have. So it's kind of surreal and it's touching. If the goal when doing it was to provide people with a comparable experience to what I had as a kid and a teenager, reading comics and coming away with a positive feeling, I think I succeeded at that, which is a nice feeling.
But so going back to kind of your connection to comics, we're a website that analyzes comics. I know you kind of transitioned from writing them to writing about them, teaching about them, analyzing them. And so I kind of wanted to know what it was to you that makes comics so special and worthy of all of this important attention and cons.
It goes back to just having loved them as a child. Now, what made me love them as a child, I don't know, because not every kid loves them. I know people, with PhD level educations who literally can't read comic books. Their brains are not wired to understand, comfortably words and pictures in a flow. But I always could, and I just, I always thought the medium was exciting, and pretty much at every point where I thought I was losing interest, something new would happen, right? Either a new exciting creator would come along, or something like the underground comics, or the independent movement, or the whole graphic novel world. So people are always discovering that comics, are quote unquote not just for kids anymore, but people are also discovering, oh look, comics actually are for kids too, I mean, right, Raina Telgemeier is probably the biggest selling graphic novelist in the world that a lot of people have never heard of, and yet they probably have her books in their home, right? Raina sells millions, literally millions of copies. So the medium has endless potential, and I love that it lives in your head, right? If you just look at a page of comic art, it's just a bunch of pictures. Even the best drawn is just a bunch of comic art. It's not until you make the movie in your mind that it comes alive, and that, to me, that's just like this really fascinating thing about comics. And when you think about it, but you don't have to think about it, because literally kids can read it and make those pictures come alive. But if you look at a comic like just out of the side of your eye, it's just like, oh, it's just a bunch of still pictures. So it's fascinating the way that works.
So you've been in the industry obviously for a long time, and I was wondering, not too long.
Well, yeah.
But I was wondering if you had any advice for people trying to break into this industry, especially people who are trying to get involved like with the bigger publishers versus trying to do stuff on their own. If you could give them like a stepping stone on the way to their success.
Well, it's a different world now. So I'd say I teach comics and I write about them, so I'm full of unwanted advice. But these days, the big companies don't seem to be interested in farm teams or training. So the more you can come to them with independently published comics of your own, or comics published by a smaller company, or a screenplay you've written, or a novel you've written, I think that's good, because they want to see, you have a following online and in the real world as well, and that you can start something and finish something. And the other thing is, comics are not movies. It's easy to say comics are movies on paper. No, they're not. They're comics. So if you think you're writing a movie or drawing a movie, you're not. And don't let yourself be seduced by that. If you want to make movies, go make movies. Comics are a medium that combines words and pictures, but they are a distinct thing. And I just love the purity of the medium, and I think that's important to remember, because if movies have actors and sound and color and motion. Comics have this really interesting combination of words, pictures, and the human mind. And if you think you're doing movies, you're going to shortchange yourself and your audience. That's my words of wisdom for today's youth.
Thank you. And then finally, just kind of a fun question. Out of all of your darlings you've worked on out of all the years, what's the one that you look back on and you're most fond of, or your favorite memories from those?
I edited Spider-Man for a long time, so I was not a huge Spider-Man fan as a kid. I liked him well enough, but it wasn't until I was a professional working on it that I appreciated Spider-Man. So I love Spider-Man. I love the people I got to work with doing Spidey. And the thing that I'm most excited about right now is I've been working on a graphic novel biography of Jack Ruby, the guy who killed Lee Harvey Oswald, with an artist named Rick Geary. And I hope to have that published one way or another in the next year or so. So, I'm excited about what I did, but I'm most excited about what's coming up. I got some book projects that I can't talk about yet, but the best is yet to come.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Once again, I'm Ms. Jamie Rice. This is Danny Fingeroth, and you have been watching Comicsverse. Make sure to check us out on comicsverse.com, as well as listen to our podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud, plus all of our social media on Facebook, Tumblr, Instagram, and Twitter. Have a nice day.